She loved me, man. And I don't even know what I did wrong. All I ever did was love her, you know?
I didn't know her to get you out of it.
So
I just wanted a regular beer.
I wanted to give her the whole world, you know?
The guest at table 63 said they ordered a Pinot Grigio, not a Pinot Noir. Tomato juice in it. Hey, bartender, how about that beer, man? Gotta help me out, man. I need a beer. The last voyage of the Demeter.
That sounds a tad bit foreboding, doesn't it?
It is the latest attempt by Universal Studios to try and revamp the classic monsters from yesteryear and is based upon journal entries written by a captain of a schooner taken from select entries from the greatest book ever written,
Dracula.
In the film, a group of voyagers on their way home make a detour and unknowingly take a bloodthirsty assailant on board their vessel. As crew members start to bite the bullet one by one, it is up to the remaining survivors to try and destroy the beast before blah blah blah. You've seen it all before.
Some shit may be spoiled here, so buyer beware.
Give me the good stuff.
The acting in this flick is pretty good.
There are a number of solid performances that I felt actually had the potential to be kind of incredible had post-production not gotten in the way, but more on that later.
My biggest fear going into this flick was that studio execs would not approve the essential slaughter of every single crew member on board the Demeter, which is heavily implied in the novel. And while the picture does end up playing it safe in the very end of the film, about the 75% mark, there is a death that happens that left my fucking jaw on the floor because it basically signaled that all bets were off and no one was safe. Yeah, mostly.
The very best part of this picture is the source material's titular villain.
I do not know if I have ever seen a Dracula movie where the vampire is actually scary.
Until now.
Gone is the tragic romance bullshittery of Coppola's 90s adaptation, as is the suave, charming seduction of Bela Lugosi. This Dracula is a fucking monster! This is very much in keeping with the novel, in which Dracula is neither suave nor a romantic. He is a fucking evil sack of shit with only one goal on his mind. Fucking survival! Looking like a crossbreed between the angel from Midnight Mass and Kurt Barlow from Tobe Hooper's adaptation of Salem's Lot, this son of a bitch is animalistic, savage, unforgiving, and downright fucking scary.
Just how I like my Draculas.
And now it's time to talk about the shit.
You know, they did very little legwork to ensure that we give a flying fuck about any of these characters, and as a result, you really do not give a flying fuck about any of these characters. And that's the whole basis of the tension and dread the filmmakers, I fucking assume, were trying to build. They didn't even give one of the characters the uber lame backstory of having a wife and kid he needs to get home to. Listen, I know it's a cliche, but so is having a bunch of red shirts to off just for the sake of fucking offing them. If you're gonna have cliches, at least have them serve the fucking narrative.
A big reason why this film didn't quite work for me was simply the pacing.
It certainly wasn't terribly paced, it just felt a little off to me. I think had they set out to do a very slow burn and use that tension and dread to build to an absolute balls to the walls manic climax, that shit would have been fire. As previously mentioned, there is some seriously kick-ass acting happening in this picture.
Unfortunately, post-production did some serious butt-fucking in that department.
The editing and overuse of score both ruin pivotal moments of genuinely good acting. Scenes where actors are having brilliant emotional beats cut to a different angle of the scene before the performance is able to play out, or swelling musical cues erupt to try and convince the audience how they should be feeling. It's some good old-fashioned twat jizz in your morning milk, if you catch my drift.
By manhandling these sequences in post, the filmmakers do not give the performances enough room to breathe, and it is frustrating for me as a viewer, so I can only imagine how fucking pissed off the performers must be.
As established in the novel as well as at the beginning of this fucking feature film, the Demeter is a Russian merchant ship commanded by, you guessed guessed it, an Englishman. Seriously, I think there's more English dudes on this boat than fucking Russians. Huh? I think I counted like 2, and that might not even be accurate, because I think one of them's Norwegian or some shit. The heroes feel the need to make epic fucking speeches during the goddamn last battle with the fucking demon monster?
You threatened me. You've been in my mind. You've been in my brain. But I will conquer you. Even if it is the last thing I do, I will prevail!
Shut the fuck up! You remember when I said that they mostly stay true to the source material and that mostly no one is safe? Well, of course, the state of blockbuster cinema being what it is today, our lead character must indeed survive and vow in a rather pointless voiceover to hunt down and kill the beast. It's like, dude, read the room. No one gives a shit about this guy, let alone his quest for vengeance against a Dracula. Also, him swearing that he's gonna go kill the son of a bitch is rendered moot if you've read the novel, because you realize that he plays zero fucking part in killing the Count because he does not exist in the novel!
Hollywood! Stop being a bunch of cowardly queefs and start killing more people!
The kills in this shit, while indeed bloody, feel fairly subdued. All these scenes of dudes dying, it's just like they're getting their necks sucked off by a giant bat, and everyone's so calm about the whole thing, and definitely not in the state of insanity that I would be. Go ahead and give me that rewatch. Off-kilter pacing and a generally mild approach to the vampire attacks will make this flick a harder one to revisit on a consistent basis. That being said, I do see it becoming somewhat of a little cult classic in the same vein as Cloverfield or Tobe Hooper's Funhouse. You know, something different that you can throw on during Halloween season that your friends probably haven't seen, judging by the box office results. And they can sit back and be surprised by what I do think is a fun and spooky vampire flick. Guys, this flick is based off of one of my favorite chapters in my favorite novel of all time, so naturally my expectations were gonna be fairly high, which might be why it seems like I didn't dig the flick, but I very much did enjoy it. It's just not as good as I wanted it to be. And now I look forward to revisiting it with my expectations in check. The long and short of it is, this is the best Dracula movie in the last 30 years. If nothing else, they get the monster that is Dracula in the novel 100% right, with some fun scares and good acting to top it off. Well, that about brings the USS Jony Horror Reviews into port. I'm your captain, Jony Horror, here to remind all you crazy stowaways and lunatic deckhands to be good to one another, be half-decent human beings, and always remember, they don't love you going out, they'll love you coming in.